Hello, good morning. Myself, I am BSR, botany lecturer. Today, our topic living world. So, living world, the study of living things is called biology. Bios means life, logos means study. The study of living things is called biology. So, living organisms are exhibiting different characters. One by one, we are discussing growth. The growth is irreversible increase in size and weight of the organ or part or an organism is called growth. Growth is the cumulative effect of clearly cell division, cell elongation, and cell differentiation. I am giving statements just to observe. Growth is the characteristic feature of living organisms only. So, living organisms only if it is there, that statement is false. Non-living things also shows growth. That statement is true. All non-living things show growth. That statement is false. Some non-living things like sound heaps, mountains, boulders shows growth. True. That statement is true. So what are the twin characters of growth? Increase in mass, that means size. Increase in number, that means cell division. Those are the twin characters of growth. In plants, the growth is continuous. In animals, the growth is discontinuous, that is definite. Especially in unicellular organisms, growth results in increase the number of individuals. But very important point, while the production of new individuals, it is called reproduction. So that is why in unicellular organisms, the growth and reproduction in unicellular organisms like bacteria, amoeba, chlamydomonas, euglena are synonymous to each other. Growth and reproduction is synonymous. So remember that one. Whereas in higher animals and plants, growth and reproduction are mutually exclusive events. That is exclusive. Growth, reproduction. But growth is not a well-defined property of living organism. So that statement is true. Because some non-living things also showing growth. Growth in living organisms is intrinsic, means inside. Whereas in non-living organisms, the growth is extrinsic. It means the growth is external. So now we are discussing about the reproduction. So the process of formation of progeny from parents, they may be similar. More similarities are there. So similar to that of parents is called reproduction. That reproduction may be two types, asexual and sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction, there generally involves only one parent. Sexual reproduction involves two parents, male and female is required. Asexual reproduction takes place by spores and binary fission and some etc. Whereas sexual reproduction takes place by the formation of gametes. Here fertilization is absent, whereas here fertilization is present. You know, through asexual reproduction, numerous individuals are formed, but here less number of individuals are formed. Through asexual reproduction, clone formation is also present. Here clone formation generally not present. Whereas genetic recombinations are not at all seen in asexual reproduction because no meiosis, whereas here genetic recombination is possible because meiosis takes place. Asexual reproduction, when you go to in fungi, that multiplies by the spores, like in yeast and hydra, that is by the budding. Whereas in planaria, flat form, there the reproduction takes place by fragmentation, asexual reproduction. Like in fungi, especially in the filamentous algae and in protonema, like you take mosses, it means bryophytes, protonema in bryophytes. There, the vegetative reproduction, it means asexual reproduction takes place by fragmentation. What does the mean of fragmentation? There, the plant parts can break into small pieces, each of which can develop it into a complete plant. So that reproduction is called fragmentation. So reproduction exhibited by all living organisms. So all living organisms, that statement is false because some mules, sterile work bees, so they cannot involved in reproduction. Hence, it is not a defining property of living organisms. So growth and reproduction is not a defined property of living organisms. Then you go for metabolism. Metabolism is a defined property of living organisms. Remember that one. In the cells of living organisms, several hundreds of or thousand chemical compounds or substances are present in the cell, they are called biomolecules. So these biomolecules are involved in the different reactions. Those reactions are called biochemical reactions. So the total sum of biochemical reactions that occur inside the cell is called metabolism. So metabolic reactions are biochemical reactions. No non-living things exhibit metabolism. You know that one. So metabolism is a defining property of a living organism. Then you go for consciousness and irritability also we are discussing. It is the defining property of living organisms. So response to the stimulus is called irritability. The ability to sense the surroundings or environment mount a correct response is called consciousness. So self-consciousness seen only in human beings. So then discussion about the interactions. All the biological phenomena are due to underlying interactions inside the organisms. It's a very, very important. So properties of tissues. The properties of tissues clearly arise as a result of interactions among constituent cells. Very, very important. Like that, properties of cellular organelles. Cellular organelles arise as a result of interactions among the molecular components comprising the organelles. So then the living organisms are self-replicating and self-evolving, self-regulating interactive systems which respond to stimulus. Organisms of the past, present and future are sharing a character of the common genetic material that is DNA, but varying degree. So it is different from one organism to another organism. So then you go for another character. So now next one we are going to diversity. The existence of different kinds of living organisms existing together is called biodiversity. The greater the biodiversity, the greater the stability of ecosystem. The highest biodiversity is found in a tropical rainforest. You know, 1.7 to 1 billion species are existing on Earth. Now we are discussing about the taxonomy. Taxonomy. Here, taxis means arrangement, nomos means law, lawful arrangement of plants or lawful arrangement of living organisms is called taxonomy. So the term taxonomy was coined by A.P.G. Kendall, father of taxonomy, Carolus I, Linnaeus. What are the aspects of taxonomy? Characterization, identification, nomenclature, classification. These are the aspects of taxonomy. First of all, look at here identification. Determining the given plant is entirely new or already known is called identification. Here, this plant is entirely new or already known. That determination is called identification. It's a prerequisite in the taxonomy. Proper and exact identification is essential for effective and correct communication. Identification of plants by three methods: direct method of identification, indirect method of identification, modern method of identification. Direct method of identification takes place by the herbarium. Indirect method of the identification takes place by the botanical keys, specially available in flora. Modern method of identification carried out by punch card keys. So the plant identification centers, you know, international level identification centers, Royal Botanical Garden HQ in England. In India, you know, the Botanical Survey of India, Kolkata in India. You know, nomenclature. Next aspect of the taxonomy is the nomenclature, providing a valid, correct scientific name. So for identified plant is called nomenclature. So this nomenclature generally done by ICBN, International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. So they meet for every 5 to 10 years. International Botanical Congress meet for every 5 to 10 years. So the first meeting done at Paris, the code is called Paris Code. Binomial nomenclature introduced by Gaspard Bohin and binomial nomenclature popularized by Carolus I Linnaeus. You know, the names of the plants here, ICBM rules, nomenclature, binomial nomenclature rules. Here, the names of the plant should be only in Latin. Generic name must be starts with a capital letter. Species name must be starts with a small letter. Remember that one. The names of the plant should be underlined in script, whereas it published in italics. Generic name and specific name should be underlined separately. The name of the author must be written at the end of the species name in abbreviated form. You know, in tautonymy means having same generic name and specific name. If same, that is called tautonymy. Naja naja. So that is invalid. Then the next aspect is the classification. You just observe the classification. The process by which anything grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characters is called classification. Now the units of classification. Any system of classification made up of different units which are arranged in hierarchical sequence. Irrespective of its rank, in the sequence every unit is called taxon. Remember that one. Earliest classification is mainly based on uses of various organisms, that is systematics. Systematic is a Latin word. Systema naturae, published by Linnaeus. Systematics takes into account evolutionary relationship between organisms. Anyway, you observe taxonomic categories. So here species, genus, family, order, these are the taxons. Next class, phylum or division, this is another taxon, and finally the top taxon is a kingdom. So this is the hierarchical sequence you observe. The number of similarities between the group decreasing in ascending hierarchy or increasing in descending hierarchy. Remember that one. The number of similarities between the group decreasing in ascending hierarchy, increasing in descending hierarchy. Remember that one. Whereas organisms belongs to species have more similarities than belongs to kingdom. Very, very important once again, the organisms belonging to species have more similarities than organism belongs to kingdom. Then, one by one we are discussing species, fundamental unit of classification. It is the basic unit of classification. It is the smallest unit of classification. So what is the meaning of species? All the plants which are identical in all respects are regarded as species. You take tuberosum, melongena, nigrum, tuberosum potato, melongena is a brinjal, nigrum is a common tree. Here all this belongs to one genus. These are the species. So all the plants which are identical in all respects are regarded as species. Like when you animals you take leo, lion, tigress, tiger. So all these are comes under Panthera. So the term species was coined by John Ray. What is the genus? So genus, a group of different species with similar or identical characters is called genus. Suppose nigrum belongs to Solanum, melongena belongs to Solanum, tuberosum belongs to Solanum, Solanum tuberosum, Solanum melongena, Solanum nigrum. Like that. Panthera leo, Panthera tigris, Panthera paradis. So these different species belongs to common genera. Like that, a group of different species with similar or identical characters is called genus. Then you go for next hierarchy. What is that one? Family. A group of related genera with still less number of similarities as compared to the genus and species. So more similarities, then less similarities, then more less similarities. So like that, different genera belongs to one family. So for example, Solanum tuberosum or Solanum melongena or Solanum nigrum and Petunia, Datura, these are the different plants. So having different genera comes under one family, that is Solanaceae. Like that, Panthera and Felis, this belongs to lion or tiger, and Felis cat comes under Felidae family. Okay, and then you go for order. So it is the assemblage of families which exhibit few similarities. So one by one, similarities are decreasing. So, for example, order Canvalulaceae. Here, family Canvalulaceae and Solanaceae comes under one order. Like that, Felidae and Cancidae comes under Carnivora. So remember that one. So different families comes under one order. Then you go for class. So this category includes related orders. So different orders comes under one class. Example, Mammalia. You look at there under Mammalia, there Primata and Carnivora. So Primata, under Primata, monkey, gorilla, gibbon comes, and Carnivora, tiger, cat, dog comes under Carnivora. So like that, different orders comes under class. Next, so this category is a phylum or division. In plants that is called division, an animal that is called phylum. So this category includes related class. It means under division class can comes. So different classes comes under divisions. So division is the plant here. So then plants, this is animals here division. Then different divisions comes under finally a major thing that is called a kingdom. So examples, look at here, plants and animals, some examples are there. Common name, man, Homo sapiens, family, Hominidae, order, Primata, class, Mammalia, division, here, phylum, Chordata, housefly, Musca domestica, Muscadia, and order is Diptera, class Insecta, phylum Arthropoda. Whereas mango, Mangifera indica, Anacardiaceae is a family, Sapindales is order, Dicotyledonate class, division is Angiosperms. And whereas wheat you take Triticum aestivum, family is Poaceae, order Poales, a class Monocotyledonate, and division is Angiosperms. And finally, we are discussing about taxonomical aids. So different taxonomic aids are there. So first one, herbarium. Herbarium, it is the quick referral system in plant identification. So repository or storehouses of future use for identification of plants. So what is the mean of herbarium? The dried, pressed, processed plant specimens fixed on herbarium sheets are called herbaria. Size of the international herbarium sheets you observe 41 into 29 centimeters or 16 and a half into 11 and a half inches. On herbarium, sheet labeling size is about 17 into 12 centimeters. So steps involved in the herbarium preparation: collection, drying and pressing, and poisoning, and finally sticking on labeling. Then you go for what are the labels are present. Their scientific name is present, vernacular name is present, and family of the plant is there, date of collection is there, place of collection is there, name of the collector also there. So and here important point, the herbarium specimens are arranged according to standard system of classification. So in India, so Bentham and Hooker's system of classification, worldwide we are following Bentham and Hooker's classification. Then when you go for here, different taxonomic aids, one by one we are discussing. So that is after that herbarium museum. So museums generally they set up generally in schools and colleges. So here the museums maintains the collection of preserved plant and animal specimens. The specimens, so generally specimens can preserve it in the jars with preserved solution. So the dried specimens are there. The plant specimens, maybe dry specimens can be maintained by the museums or animal specimens also. But insects they preserve by collection and killing and pinning on the boards. Large animals like birds and mammals, so they preserve by first stuffed and finally they preserve. So finally, the collection of skeletons of animals also maintained by the museum. Zoological parks, many zoological parks are there. They maintain many animals in the zoological park. And the most important taxonomical aid is the key. The taxonomic aid, which are analytical nature, that is the key. Neither quantity or nor quality. But here, these keys are helpful to identify the plants by comparing the similarities and dissimilarities. So here mainly consideration of similarities and dissimilarities. So mainly the new plants can identify by the elimination process. So based on the contrasting characters generally in pair called couplet. Each statement in couplet is called lead. Remember that one. So here separate taxonomic keys are there to identify the families, genus and species. Then another taxonomic aid is flora. So which contain the actual account of habitat and distribution of plants in given area. It provides index of the plant species in a given area. Then when you go for manuals, it is useful in providing information for identification of names of the species in a particular area. And you go for another taxonomical aid, monographs. Monographs can contain the information on only one taxon. And the last one is the catalog. The catalog, so that maintains the characters about the different species, so that can publish on white cards. So they are arranged in alphabetical order. So thank you. It is the living world totally. So thank you to all.